Okay, ladies, thank you so much for being here. Divas and dudes at home, you are in for a treat. This is a delicious recipe and kind of a carry on from all of the recipes that we've made this cooking series of meal prep magic. But it kind of goes with the recipe we made last week, which was that cauliflower masala, right? So this one won't take long, so we'll have some time to chat and kind of talk about everything that we learned. I'm Raquel, by the way, in case you forgot. I woke up today and I was like, I am Raquel. Okay, so what we have today is this beautiful, fragrant rice dish. And so sometimes we need some creativity, something that just kind of is a little bit different off the norm of what we typically tend to cook. This is taken from one of my favorite restaurants in the Seattle area called Shamiana. Beautiful Indian restaurant. And I happen to have this recipe from many, many decades ago. Kind of tweaked it a little bit. The recipe that you have in front of you is sort of the smaller version. I'm going to make the larger batch just because we have so many folks here today, because I want you to see it does make quite a bit. When I make this, I use it for my lunches. I use it for my side dishes as dinner. Like for lunch, I might make it as the base of like a grain bowl kind of idea, right? Because it makes quite a bit. It makes like 15 servings. But this is the small version, but we're going to do the big one today. And so there's not a lot to it. It's really pretty easy. I use this basmati rice. Anybody cook with basmati? Mm-hmm. Fan of it? Yeah, it's great. So what's the secret to cooking basmati rice for those of you who've cooked with it before? You may have seen me doing it. Yeah. So it has a lot of starch, right? And so any kind of rice that has a lot of that starch, you want to rinse off so that it cooks up well. It absorbs the liquid that you're going to use well. So what I did was I just rinsed it lightly under some cold water until it ran clear. So it'll be pretty cloudy for a while. Keep rinsing it until it goes clear. So that's what I did. I've got 3 cups here. And the other kind of aromatics that we're going to use are some spices and kind of your typical things to get started with. So we'll be using 1 onion, a little bit of garlic, because we all love garlic, right? Also some ginger. So if you notice or remember from last week, we used some of these ingredients as well. So if you're making this together, it's great because you just have to buy the ingredients once and you have it for both dishes. So that's also a good tip. We're going to be using some beautiful bay leaves and some cinnamon. So sometimes people are a little thrown off when they see something kind of sweet in a savory dish, but I think that's kind of the nice secret ingredient, right? So we're going to be using some cinnamon sticks and then a little bit of turmeric to get that beautiful color that you see here. Sometimes you'll go to a restaurant and be like, how did they do that? This is the magic spice, so turmeric. It's also good for you. Do you guys remember, I've done a lot of recipes with turmeric with you guys, but what's the other ingredient or spice that you have to use? We're actually not using it today, black pepper, yeah, to help with absorption. But we're not going to put pepper in this one. The other spice seasoning we're going to use are some cumin seeds. And so on this one, I know some people kind of have a love-hate relationship with cumin, coriander, cilantro, all that family. I'm only using half a tablespoon. If that's too much for you, cut back. I love it though. I grew up with this flavor, so it's a taste of home for me. And then we're going to use a little bit of salt to season and just saute everything in canola oil. If you wanted to, I've done it with coconut oil. Olive oil I wouldn't suggest unless it's a lighter one, just because the flavor is pretty it stands out. It's pretty pronounced, and you want the flavors of these spices to come out more than the flavor of the oil that you're cooking with. So that's pretty much it. Not a lot to throw into this recipe, which I love. Okay, so we're gonna start with, let me chop up this onion and we'll get that going in our pan here. And we're using the electric skillet again today because it's just super easy. You know what I almost forgot to pack last night as I was packing up my kit? Can you guys guess? Yeah. I just happened to see it sitting next to the sink. I was like, okay, it's gonna be one of those days, eh? Great, but I did not. And hopefully I did not forget anything else. I remembered my coffee this morning, which was great. So we are heading into a 3-day weekend, which I almost forgot was Monday, was a holiday. And so this is a good time, right? Like if anybody is considering, because they haven't done meal prep before, this would be a good practice. You now have at least five recipes in your toolkit, in your toolbox of recipes, right? That you can enjoy, cook. Some are breakfast, some are lunchy. I kind of tried to throw a variety in for you all. Are there any that you remember? Let's recount while I'm chopping this onion, because you all have seen me chop an onion. But let's go back and kind of review. We started with breakfast, right? You guys remember what recipe that was?
The egg bites.
The egg bites. So a few of you have made them, right? Anybody else try your hand at that? Has that made breakfast a little bit more interesting or easier for you all? Those of you who have made it?
For me, it's easier just to grab it in, 4 minutes and it's on the go,
Yeah, and they hold really well. Like, I had a friend who, she's a personal chef, and she makes them quite a bit for clients, and she freezes them for them. So yeah, it's a nice versatile recipe for breakfast. One that, you can kind of mix up with the different ingredients that you want to add to it. Okay, and then the second week, what did we do? I think we did a lunch recipe. You guys remember what that was?
Chicken salad.
The chicken salad, right? With some of our friends were not fans of olives because there were Kalamata olives in it. It was our Mediterranean chicken salad. Anybody try it by trying to poach the chicken?
I did.
Yeah, how did that turn out for you?
The poaching is the best because I tried it in the Instapot.
Okay.
Instapot poaching chicken.
Oh, you can Google anything these days.
What Raquel had shown us how to do it.
Yeah.
I did it both ways.
Yeah.
It's not too dry in the Instapot, even though you're
Okay. Too dry. Interesting.
Yeah, it was very good. Yeah, everybody enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's a pretty flavorful one, and I think the key there are all the fresh herbs that get added. I'm not a big Kalamata fan either, but it somehow works for me in that recipe. And it's only, I think, like half a cup, so you could leave it out though, totally. Okay, so let me just get this going so we can saute that a little bit, and I'm going to use 3 tablespoons in this larger version. I will jot that down for you guys, or tell you right now, actually. So we're going to use 3 tablespoons of canola oil. And you saw 1 yellow onion. I am a big fan of those sweet yellow onions for as long as we can find them here. But you could use regular white onion. I feel like the regular yellow onions are super spicy. Like, they've got some bite, right? So I typically go for the sweet onion. Good flavor. Okay, so I'm going to let that heat up a little bit before I add my onion. The other thing we're going to do is a little bit of garlic, and you all know these are my favorites when I see them at H-E-B, just because I feel like they're easier to peel too. But we're just going to use 1 clove. And I am a fan of garlic, so I try to find the biggest, like that. Okay, so week 3, remind me, what did we do for week 3? The soup was week 3. Okay, so the broccoli Gouda cheddar thing. And that's kind of a nice one to have in your back pocket also. I actually have leftover ingredients, so this weekend am probably going to make, a couple weekends ago I went to Central Market and got those hatch chilies that are already roasted. So I may take a version of that soup and do hatch chili, potato, cheese, maybe bacon. Yeah, so that will be great in my freezer. Okay, the soup, because that's always good to have in your meal prep arsenal. And then last week we did the masala. I've done variations of that. I like it a little more spicy and creamier, so I'll add the yogurt and maybe more pepper, or I wasn't able to get the spice that I wanted to get for you guys, but maybe I'll work that into a November recipe. But it was a special blend of curry powder. And then this week, we're doing this beautiful rice. So yeah, I think you all have now kind of a good variety of recipes that you can kind of mix and match. Are there other things, like, as we went along in these 5 weeks, anything that kind of came up for you were like, oh, I hadn't thought about that before. Maybe I will give that a try.
Well, for me, it was the fresh part.
Oh,
I used
yes.
to walk by that before, and I bought it, and I'm using it.
That's great. That is wonderful. Yeah. Was it the Italian parsley or regular curly? Yeah. Parsley is it's great for your health. It's colorful. It's just got that nice, I mean, a lot of people say it tastes like grass. Well, any herb, right? Like it's natural, comes from the ground. I love any kind of fresh herbs. I, this morning actually had, I found on sale at HEB these little containers of fresh herbs, and one was chive and the other was parsley, actually Italian parsley. And I was like, great, because I didn't get a chance to really grow a lot. And they look a little sad. I've kind of had them in my kitchen window, and it gets enough light, but they look a little droopy. So I think I may take them outside and plant them in pots because they deserve to have a good life and be useful in my kitchen. So the other thing we're going to do next is ginger. And today I did actually remember my zester. So you know, when I cook with ginger, sometimes I don't even peel it because it's all going to kind of cook down, right? But sometimes I use my handy little peeler, but I take some of these knobs off just so that I don't harm myself in the process and I don't have to peel around those. But we're just going to use about a teaspoon of this, so not the whole thing, unless you really like ginger. I do too. Good anti-inflammatory properties, right? Yes, we need that. We can all benefit from that. Turn this down a little because I don't want to burn my onions. This pan heats up really fast, which I love. Okay. So, I'm just going to take this, do a little bit of this nice finely grated ginger. Ooh, I love that smell. I mean, you know what I haven't done with you all are smoothie recipes, and I have a great one using ginger. So maybe we'll do kind of like health tonics. Maybe in addition to recipes, healthy recipes for the holidays, we'll do a beverage because I have not done that yet with you guys. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. Okay. So we've got that all ready to go. This recipe kind of comes together fairly easy. What we're going to do is add that, give it a stir. I know it already smells good, right? It already smells delicious. I think I turned it down too much. Okay, so we're going to do that, add our spices. So a little bit of the turmeric. I believe I do 1 teaspoon of this. Yes. Teaspoon of turmeric. In that goes. And then we're also going to do that half a tablespoon of these cumin seeds. Now, if you didn't have that, you could use just ground cumin. That would be fine. But I think the seeds also kind of give it a little bit of, you know.
Now they put that in a bag. How do you keep it fresh?
Oh, I have.
Or do you
I usually
have to worry about that being fresh?
Well, no. If it's like that, I transfer it into jars that I have. You know what I did to create my own spice pantry? It was years ago, but there was a little kind of Middle Eastern store that I used to go to in Seattle, actually, and they had discounted everything, and they always had those little jars of artichoke hearts, marinated artichoke hearts, and they were like, I don't know, 50 cents, and so I would buy them to cook with, and I would save the jars, and I ended up just like keeping the jars for my spices, and so I have my whole pantry is mostly those jars, and that's what I just do. Anytime I buy spices in bulk, I transfer it. Or once you go through something like this, you know, these store-bought ones, you can reuse those. So, beautiful color, all right, from the turmeric. We're going to add in our rice now. It smells really good. And what I want to do is just make sure I coat all of this so that the rice gets all that beautiful color. And then we'll add in the water and our cinnamon and our bay leaves, and then put the lid on it. And I'm going to cook it kind of gently because this pan does get hot. It's okay if it gets a little crust on the bottom sometimes. There's a word for that in certain cuisines. No, I want to say it's called like sukat or something like that, but it's like the crust that forms on the bottom, and it's kind of like the prize, like especially in Spanish cooking, I think, because it's that nice kind of crusty brown.
In Puerto Rico, we call them pegado
because it sticks, yeah.
And in Dominican Republic, they call it con con.
Ah, okay, but it's kind of like a one of those things that people really love because it's that best part at the bottom. Okay, so I'm gonna let me make sure I get the right amount. It's 5 3/4 cup of water. So there goes 4. And hopefully I have enough in here, I should. That is gonna be 5.
Does it make a difference? Because when my mother would make rice, it always had to be boiling water.
Well, the boiling water is going to help it, stay nice and hot right away, right? Like it's hitting my mom does that too. Maybe that's I don't know, kind of a cultural thing. But I mean, it's hot, right? So it's going to help it along a little faster. Maybe that's the thinking behind that. No harm in that.
And I noticed that my cousin does the same thing. I do the same thing. I'm like, okay. And my cousin
It's been passed down.
boils her water still, like my mom and my aunt.
Yeah.
My water comes out so hot on the sink that I just need to let it run.
Oh,
So,
I feel like since I moved to Texas, there's maybe like 2 days in maybe February that I get cold water out of the tap. I wasn't used to that. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, right.
yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna let this kind of come up to a boil, but once it's done, I'll turn it down to just let it lightly simmer. And basically, you just want to cook this until the liquid has absorbed all throughout the rice, and then we'll fluff it up a little bit, and it'll look as beautiful as that picture there. So in the meantime, let me just clean up a little bit here, and I will walk us through some of the other things that I would like to talk about today. So this is one of those cool recipes where you can set it and forget it. Oh, you know what I forgot, ladies? What ingredient did I forget? The one that you guys are always saying it needs a little more. Well, it's definitely going to need more. So let me add that in just before I keep chit-chatting here. And that's going to be a teaspoon of salt.
Did you add a bay leaf?
I added 2 bay leaves, and then
2 or 3, but I saw some bay leaves.
yeah, 2 bay leaves, and then 2 cinnamon sticks, and that teaspoon of salt. So now we are good to go.
Is that sea salt or just?
Just regular, yeah. I typically, when I do recipes for the public, I tend to cook with just the regular salt that you can find. When I cook at home, I do use that kosher salt, which is kind of the larger flake, but it's really hard to find the Diamond brand kosher salt at the grocery store. So I typically have to order that online. You will see kosher salt at the grocery store here, but it's just not, it's not quite the same. I find it's too small. It doesn't have quite the same flavor. It's something about that red box. That is, yeah, that's very good. And it's what I was used to cooking with in restaurants. Like that's stuff that we always had. So, and it lasts a long time because I don't use that much of it. I tend to like kind of season my food as I cook as it's cooking, but then at the end I kind of give it a final, like if when I'm doing meal prep, like I'll taste something, and that when food sits, it's kind of like the flavors are sometimes melding together, like that chicken salad, right? Like the longer it sits, the more beautiful all those flavors come out, the lemon, the herbs. But then sometimes like with a soup or a stew, like that'll be good, but after a couple of days, you're like, it needs a little more salt, or it needs a little more something. And that'll happen, just as food kind of breaks down. Not a bad thing, but happens. So it's important to know kind of how to continue to season that so that you enjoy those dishes that you're putting so much time and love and effort into to prepare for yourself for the week. But that is a great segue into what we're going to be talking about next. So I've kind of been giving you all some tips along the way, and hopefully they've been helpful, or hopefully you're already doing some of them. But what I wanted to share with you all is just kind of how to build your spice pantry and how to use different things, ingredients in the kitchen to season your food, right? And that's a big piece of cooking, obviously, but it's a piece that we forget about because sometimes maybe you have some sensitivities or your family just doesn't like certain things. I cooked for many years for a client who all the seasoning I could use was salt and pepper. I could not use anything else, which as a chef, hurt my heart a lot. But they paid well, so I kept going back. But sometimes that's the deal, and you have to learn how to bring flavor to things. And I think cooking in a world without spices is a sad thing. So if you can incorporate some things, typically you want to have a couple things on hand. And that really truly is like the magic of meal prep is it's a lot easier. It's going to make your life a lot easier if you have some simple things in your pantry, in your refrigerator, freezer, like don't make your life difficult. Just keep these things on hand. So one of the first things that I recommend, not only to have on hand, but that helps with flavoring in your recipes, is fat. So when it comes to fat, we kind of shy away from the word fat for a lot of reasons. Some may be dietary, some are just ingrained in us that fat is bad, but fat is actually flavor. And so we need it in our bodies because it is, essential in our bodies to function, to give us the energy and all of that nutritionally. And then, knowing which ones to choose. But fat is flavor. It helps carry flavor as well. So some things to keep in your pantry can be neutral oils like canola oil. And when I say neutral, I mean oils that don't have a lot of strong, forward, bold flavors, like what we were just talking about, olive oils. So a neutral oil like canola, vegetable, grapeseed is a nice one. There's a lot of controversy right now about seed oils. What I tend to say, and because I refer back to my dietitian friends, is do your research. Don't get freaked out. Most of the oils that you're cooking with, you're using very sparingly. I would say stay away from ones that have higher processing because that's where a lot of the concern is. But people have been cooking with these things for decades. And so I think the hype and the scare of especially the food influencers is nuts. So always kind of do your research, go to good sources, and don't shy away from things that are essential in cooking. Olive oil and avocado oil are great because they're both obviously heart-healthy oils to cook with. Anybody here use avocado oil to cook with? Yeah, it's a good one. And what I love about it also is that it has a good high smoke point, right? So if you're frying things or just wanting something that has a little more, that's another thing to remember. Cook with the oils that are best for the application. One of the things that somebody once taught me was the best way to make fried chicken is actually peanut oil because it also has a good high smoke point. And you want I think a lot of times people make fried chicken and the chicken's still raw inside, but they got that beautiful color and the crunch and everything. And it's like, use the right oil. For God's sake, use the right oil. Coconut oil, again, going back to use one that's refined. Use it in moderation. I love it for the flavor, even if it's a refined one, something about the texture of that. I used to bake with it also. Experiment a little bit with the different kinds of oils. There's certain cuisines that call for certain oils, right? What are some of the kinds of cuisines that you all have cooked where you've said, oh, in place of olive oil, I'm going to use this today because it just makes sense in the cuisine? Anything you guys can think of?
Sesame seed oil for Chinese. Asian.
Yeah, Asian, exactly. Yeah, and that's one too where it's it's got such a bold flavor that you can definitely use it to saute, but I also use it kind of at the end as just another flavoring, right? Because it has such beautiful flavor. That's one though, actually all of these where you really want to make sure that you're storing them properly so that they don't go rancid, because that's one that quickly will go rancid if you keep it out in heat or exposed to a lot of light. Yeah, that's one of my favorite ones to cook with, but I will use it kind of at the end because it has such beautiful flavor. And there's different ones too. I find that some are really, really strong and just in your face. And then there are sort of the nice lighter ones where it's just that's perfect. And then when it comes to other fats, solid fats like butter, always unsalted. Does anybody here cook with butter? Oh, God bless you. I feel like people have been so scared away from butter, and it has. I think I did a recipe actually.
Why do you say unsalted?
Because salted butter has salt in it, right? And it's going to affect the flavor of your recipe, especially if you're baking. You do want salt in things.
I use salted butter because I don't add salt.
Well, there you go.
My salt.
Yeah, there you go. So I would say if you are fine with that and then you don't add the extra salt, perfect. I typically tend to cook with unsalted butter because I'll be seasoning along the way, and so I want to be in control of my my recipe and my seasoning. But yeah, I typically sometimes like accidentally people will grab the salted butter and then they use it in baking. And you should use salt when you're baking something sweet because it helps also balance the flavor of something. But I think unsalted butter in something like, chocolate chips or cake or something, and then you add extra salt and you're like, what in the world? So has anybody ever done that? Mm-hmm. Yes, it's happened. I'm just going to take a little peek. Oh, that's looking good. Okay. How about these non-dairy alternatives? Anybody cook with us?
I tried the one that you showed us one of the classes.
Oh, the avocado oil. I forget.
And I actually like it when there's something about we Puerto Ricans with like our bread with butter,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually like that thing better with that regular butter.
Oh, okay.
It sits better with my stomach.
Yeah. Is that country crock? I believe. Yeah. The plant butters. Yeah.
I've baked with them.
Yeah.
People request that type of cake.
Exactly. So I think these plant-based, non-dairy substitute kind of butters have come a long, long way. You see so many brands and varieties now, and they've done some. I love, like, if I could go back, I would become a food scientist because those people are geniuses to be able to create like products that look, feel, taste exactly like the ones that are the regular ones, right? And those are great. The only thing that I always look for is just make sure the sodium is not like off the charts, because they can be, because again, they're changing the construction of that ingredient to make it do what it needs to do. Also look for a lot of those highly refined or highly processed oils, the palm oil, all that kind of stuff. But those are some of the ones. The Country Crock one is pretty good. Earth Balance is also one that I've cooked with quite a bit. We did a mac and cheese recipe, and I used to use that Earth Balance. I can't always find it at some of the stores, but the variety has gotten better. Yeah, any others that you all have tried?
Ghee.
Oh, ghee is fantastic. Yeah, and we can pretty much find that even at like our regular grocery stores now. That's definitely something that's fantastic. It's basically a clarified butter. So all the like the milk, clarified butter. So like the solids, I guess, have been removed. The milk solids have been removed. So it's concentrated, and a lot of Indian cooking uses it. Some Asian cooking. Yeah, it's really good, and you can find it pretty much anywhere. Okay. Acid. So adding acid is also, I must have been inspired this day. It's like turning the focus on a camera lens. So it really helps kind of like make your food pop. You get that boost of flavor. It really kind of sharpens the flavor of something. If you say, this needs a little something, add some kind of acid. And it could be something as simple as citrus, right? A lemon, a lime. Think of all your favorite things that you enjoy. What is it? Or even hero, right? Like you typically go out and order something and there's a little bit of lime or something on the side and you squeeze that on and it's just like, whoa, night and day, to just bring out the flavor of that food. So, but also you can use things like white or white wine vinegars. Apple cider vinegar is one of my favorite things to cook with. Great flavor. It's good for your gut. But it has a little bit of sweetness. And so, I use it a lot in like when I'm making marinades. Also, if I'm making like salad dressings, just because I want a little bit of sweet. I also heard recently one of my favorite food chefs. His name is, what is he? He's like a personal chef, but maybe also a physical trainer, and he does great stuff. Also, he has great knife skills. But he was doing a recipe with a pineapple apple cider vinegar from the same maker of the people who make the regular apple cider vinegar. And I haven't seen it at stores, but if you all find it, let me know, because that sounds kind of interesting to me. Balsamic vinegars, the red wine vinegars, all of those are really great. Balsamic, I always say kind of match the ingredient with the cuisine. So balsamic vinegar, when you hear that, what do you think? What kinds of foods? Italian, yeah. And that's another one too, where like you can find balsamic vinegar pretty readily. I feel like there's a trip to Italy in my future someday. And I would love to be able to like, you taste different olive oils and see what they really taste like. I feel like the things that we find at our regular grocery store are what are probably passed as consumable for the general population. But when you truly like identify an ingredient and you try it the way it should taste, it's off the charts, right? It just kind of blows your mind. And I feel like olive oils, balsamic vinegars would be one of those. They are typically aged, right? So the longer it sits in like these barrels, probably oak barrels, it just develops a deeper flavor. And you may have even seen, I see it quite a bit now too, like the concentrated balsamic vinegar. So it's almost like a syrup. That's really delicious because you've got the acidity, but you also have a sweetness. And then kind of like the texture of that is beautiful. So if you've ever been to a restaurant and you see a little bit of something drizzled, but it still holds its like shape, that's probably a drizzle. You can make that by just reducing balsamic vinegar, but it takes a little while to get it to that syrupy state. And you want to use kind of a good quality one because a lot of the ones that we find at the store are pretty, like they haven't been aged that long, so they're pretty like mild in flavor. But if you do want to treat yourself, like go to the store or see what you can find. I typically don't cook a lot with balsamic vinegar, but every once in a while, if I'm doing something kind of nice, I'll go find a good bottle of it.
Something really crazy that I tried once, that I was watching the show and like they mentioned it and I tried it because why not? And it blew my mind. It was like having vanilla ice cream with a little bit of balsamic vinegar reduction. It blew my mind. It tastes amazing.
It does, because it has that like concentrated acid flavor, so it's tangy, but it's also sweet. Another great combination that has been around forever is strawberries and balsamic vinegar and pepper, black pepper. If you ever, that's simple, to go buy some beautiful strawberries, chop them up, and then get some nice balsamic vinegar, and then add a little pinch of black pepper. It will change. It will blow your mind. It's really good. It's a simple dessert. You could put that over ice cream, and that would also be good. I know. I'm so sad for you. I just had a bunch of ice cream. That's a crazy story. We'll talk about that later. Okay, so all these different kinds of vinegars. Rice wine vinegar. So that's another one. So when you hear rice wine vinegar, what kind of cuisine comes to mind? Asian cooking, yeah. I used to do a lot of great recipes with rice wine vinegar just for like dipping sauces. And you can get actually two different kinds of rice wine vinegar. One is just plain old straight out rice wine vinegar. And then the other one you'll see on the bottle, it says seasoned. It's sweeter. So just be aware of that. Sometimes when you're cooking with it, you're like, whoa, was not expecting that. It's got great flavor, but it's much sweeter. And so that's typically what we would use a lot for like the dipping sauces that go with egg rolls or spring rolls or whatever. And it has great flavor, but just remember there's some sugar in there. Not that sugar is bad. Okay, so in our spice pantry, I kind of tried to list sort of the typical ones that should live in your pantry. Garlic and onion powders should be your best friends. They should live in your pantry. One, the other, I always have both. And when I don't have one, I'm really sad. And I'm like, why didn't I get this? Where have I been? I'm always at the store. Why don't I have this? They are great substitutes for onion and garlic, right? If you don't happen to have it on hand, they work really great in some of these recipes that just kind of take time to develop flavor because they are an instant source of flavor. You can buy different grades of like granulated garlic powder, the really fine powdery garlic powder, or even like onion, like what are they called? Onion. They're like little onion chips if you didn't want onion powder. So all of that works really well. So when it comes to Italian herbs, if you're doing any kind of spaghetti, sauces, pizzas, right? Like you want your typical dried basil, dried thyme, dried oregano, parsley, rosemary, sage. You remember all that? So that's typically kind of the combination there. Some of the things that I also really enjoy, and I use quite a bit for just simple marinades, are smoked paprika. You can find all sorts of paprika on the market. I always get smoked because I just love the flavor. You can get a sweet paprika. That's also nice too. Chili powder, because who doesn't love to cook with that? I have like 3 different types. Some are this brand, and they're like interesting local blends. I have one that's like a chipotle chili powder that is just so good. Cayenne. I have quite a bit of that. I don't always use it, so I should probably buy less of it. But that's always one of those where you're like, needs a little something. cayenne. I had a chef that I worked with, and that's what he would always joke about. I'm like, this is so good. What is that? He's like, cayenne. So that's another one of those spices. Turmeric, which we're using today, and works well in both sweet and savory applications, and also good for our health. Cumin and cumin seeds. So usually I will buy like the seed and ground it as I need it because I have my little coffee spice grinder. So I'll do that. My mom always loves to keep this in a jar with black peppercorns, very Mexican, right? And then she'll grind it up when she's making her rice or whatever. But we have a little jar of that in our pantry. Whole black peppercorns, which is what made me think of that, which I grind up and make my own pepper. Cinnamon and cinnamon sticks, so having both. I love to just pop in a cinnamon stick on something, whatever I'm making, just to give it some great flavor. And then ginger, if you're going to get that, I'd say buy it in bulk because typically these are some of the spices where you think, like, what would you cook with that? Maybe some Asian cuisine, but usually it's like holiday baking, right? It's like a teaspoon of ginger and then you never use it again. So with some of these spices, I say I typically don't keep more than I don't know, maybe a couple tablespoons on hand usually, because I don't like things sitting in. I'm probably like everybody, I keep my spices close to my cooking area, but they're in a cabinet. They're not like on top of the stove or anything. But I typically don't keep a lot in the jars. If it is something that recently I purchased something, it was Aleppo pepper, which is kind of a hot, smoky, but it was already ground and it had red pepper flakes in it and something else. It was a nice combination. I'd never seen it. I'm like, I'll just buy a little bit of that and I'll maybe use it on as a rub for some kind of meat and try it out. And if I like it, I'll buy more. So that's kind of how I judge spices. It's like if I use something quite a bit, I buy a little bit more. I typically try to buy as much as I can in bulk though, because I don't want to keep anything longer than I need to. And then salt. So we were just talking about, salt and what kinds to use. I have probably like 3 or 4 of just the regular table salt. But it's mostly from classes actually. And I will use that up as I'm like creating recipes and whatnot. But as for regular, I just use the kosher salt. I have a little jar next to my stove and just kind of use that as I need it. There are all sorts. We could do a whole class on salt. There are like salts for garnishes, the flaky salts. I used to cook a recipe and at the end, the person that I used to cook for always liked the crunch of like those larger flake salts. And so I would just toss that on. I think it was pizzas or something that we always did or some kind of flatbread. And so that's what we do, is just kind of find the spices that we like. And so this is kind of a good starting point if you're just building your spice pantry. Anything I left off of here that you guys have in your spice pantry?
Bay leaves.
Bay leaves. Yes, that actually is a good one too. Oh, sorry about that. Oh, this looks good.
I had everything except for basil. I don't have.
Well, and you can also get like those blends that are already Italian herb, right? And it has a lot of that in there. I would say, again, just get kind of a smaller portion. I made the mistake once of getting something because I was doing a lot of cooking and it's like a jar that's like this. And so anytime I get to use, I'm like, Italian herb, because I don't want that sitting for so long. That's so much. Like, who's going to use that much? But anything else, you guys?
I have rosemary growing at home.
Yes.
I have a lot of rosemary. I don't really cook unless I'm using a ribeye steak, and then I cook that, which is rare.
Ooh, that's nice though.
Rare
Yeah.
when I cook it and rare when I use it.
Yeah, I just bought a rosemary plant not too long ago and it's doing beautifully on my front porch. And I looked at it last night as I was watering it and just like, sometimes that's just so nice to have some fresh herb. Just the smell of that is very therapeutic. And you could do like even infused waters with rosemary. We used to do that quite a bit in my past job, just because we had all these beautiful fresh herbs that our farm team would plant out in front of the building. And so they're like, hey, make an infused water. And you'd be surprised at how well things like that kind of go together.
Oils as well.
Yeah, essential oils or some kind of cooking oils. That would be great with some garlic cloves and just kind of, letting that sit for a while. Okay, so our rice is pretty much done, but one thing I wanted to point out is this great book here. This really, truly is one of my favorites. I think I have mentioned it to you before. This is from a chef called Samin Nosrat, and it is the quintessential cookbook for those of you who, maybe you've got a little cooking under your belt, but you want to just explore, like, how do I make my dishes really flavorful? It is a good read. It basically breaks down like the four main components of cooking. You want your salt, your fat, your acid, and your heat, right? And then how do we bring those into our cooking? But she has great illustrations in here. And one of the ones that I wanted to point out to you is this cool chart that she has. Maybe it's this one, where she takes a look at certain things and then breaks it down and tells you. She has the world of flavor. Like, she has cool charts like this. And it shows you like what cuisines use what spices. I think she also has this for acids. So like what kinds of acids are used in different cooking cuisines around the world. So she has Africa, Asia, South America, North America, and Europe. And I love stuff like this. Like, I geek out on stuff like this because sometimes I even need the inspiration, right? I haven't cooked enough recipes. I was just saying, it's Labor Day weekend. I got some time to experiment. But there are some beautiful recipes in here, and they are great illustrations of how to balance your food with these different concepts of salt, fat, acid, heat, right? But like, for example, let me see. This has... in Italy, because we've been talking about Italy, all the flavors, like the spices, basil, fennel seeds. We've cooked recipes with actual fresh fennel. Rosemary, she's got some oregano. In the UK, there's kind of a mix. So parsley, dill, mint, curry powder, because there's some like Asian, Indian influences, ginger. And then Caribbean. There's hot peppers, ginger, what else? Bay leaves, curry powders, jerk spices. I was at an H-E-B yesterday and I loved it. It's the one that's close to like Elota's. And I've been there twice now, kind of accidentally. It's a nice one, yeah. And they have a whole aisle that is like international food. So I must have spent like 20 minutes and there is some really cool stuff there. Some of the ingredients that we were talking about, and there's wonderful stores here in the medical center too, but that H-E-B in particular, I was impressed because I literally, like the whole aisle on both sides, it was like a playground for me because I was like, ooh, what's that? It was like Greek, Asian, Pakistani, Mexican, Caribbean, like all of it, and everything you can think of just in one aisle. And I was like, that's awesome. Like, to be able to find that in a regular grocery store is pretty cool. So I bought something that looks like traditional Mexican fideo, vermicelli, right, pasta, but it was in the shape of like almost like a loop. And I paid 43 cents for this little packet. It was about this big, and it's from Pakistan. And I'm like, it probably cooks up just like, vermicelli. So I'm going to experiment with that. But I was like, A, a bargain, B, like, totally different cuisine, but that's what I also love about cooking. Like, you can find things that kind of translate all across the world, right? Like, there's certain ingredients, there's certain recipes that you will find just in different variations. And so I love that this book has like some of that to kind of help keep you inspired and help you make those connections. I think a lot of times when people are cooking, they're not quite sure. So they just throw a bunch of stuff together and they're like, this tastes terrible. But if you have kind of some guidelines and you say, oh, these ingredients are usually what you find in this cuisine, perfect. And there's a reason for that. The things are grown and seasoned a certain way. Dishes come together in a certain way and they just work because they've been tried and tested and all of that. So speaking of tested, we are going to test this recipe of rice. I want to show you what this looks like because it's beautiful, but let me turn this off first. So we have this beautiful fluffy rice that did not take much time at all, right? While we were talking. I'm going to remove our bay leaves and our cinnamon. And then my lovely assistant today, Miss Jose, is going to help us dish out. But in just this short amount of time, we now have this beautiful colored and flavored rice that you can use as a side dish or as kind of the base of something a little more interesting for lunch, dinner, whatever. But this is our pulao.